was you.
All the buttons.
I thought it was you bringing me to order.
No, I would use a more direct approach, like, right, Lagoon, I'm going to bring you to order. Yeah, but we communicate, I'm sure. Okay, so we're going to do a similar. We're going to have a similar session as we did yesterday, only slightly less, maybe hopefully slightly less chaotic for those of you that didn't appreciate the chaos. And I think Right Laguna is going to lead us into that with a story, and then I'll take over for a bit, and then we'll just mill about. Yeah, is that roughly what we're doing, Right Laguna? You're still muted.
We're not doing that now, though, are we?
Why? What are we doing now?
You said that we should have groups now.
Oh, and I thought you said, no, I've got a different idea suddenly. So I said, okay, so what's your idea? So then you told me what it was. So I assumed you meant. Okay. Okay,
Chaos.
folks.
Here we
Chaos
are getting
has started
chaos.
already. Okay, well, actually, that was good because I think the idea that I had was a good one. Don't mute Rat Laguna, please.
No, he's muting himself.
Don't mute yourself, just in case you need to say something.
Okay.
Okay, good, because I did think my idea was a good one. So we're going to go back into groups and just continue the conversation we had this morning. And then we'll come back again as one group. And then me and Rat Laguna will do the thing that I thought we were going to do. And that's a bit more kind of aspirational and needs less discussion, I think. Well, hopefully it will need less discussion. So what time is it now? 3:30. What time should we come back, Rat Laguna? Like 4:45?
Wow.
Oh, no, that's too long. Oh, yeah, but they'd have a break. We'd have a break. What?
4:30.
4:30. We come back together at 4:30.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we'll have groups now. That's quite a lot of group, isn't it? We'll have a group now until 4:15. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
It'll take us a couple of minutes to sort people into groups.
Yeah, okay. We'll have groups until about 4:15, 4:20, and then we'll come back here at 4:30. And all of you on outside the UK, if you can translate that, that would be great, into your own time. And the tech team are now just trying to sort out all our groups. Yeah. Okay, now I've got to exit this room and go somewhere else. You probably all have to, you just stay where you are, don't you? That's what happens with you guys. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So while we're waiting for the groups, in this book that I mentioned the other day, Philosophy as a Way of Life, I found something really beautiful. He's talking about the Epicureans, and he's about the fact that they thought that life was, in the end, pleasure. And he says of them, in the Epicurean communities, friendship also had its spiritual exercises, carried out in a joyous, relaxed atmosphere. He talks about them, but then he says, above all, friendship itself was, as it were, the spiritual exercise par excellence. Each person was to tend towards creating the atmosphere in which hearts could flourish. The main goal was to be happy, and mutual affection and the confidence with which they relied upon each other contributed more than anything else to this happiness. Isn't that gorgeous?
And another thing that came from that book that I seem to remember was when I think it's probably Socrates describing the dialogues that he has with his disciples, and
yes.
he says he wasn't trying to pursue the right answer. It wasn't important what the person said. What was more important was who said it. In other words, where that answer came from, and he was trying to get beyond the normal superficial way of communicating and get someone to speak from a more authentic, real place in communication. So It wasn't important what was said, it was where it came from, who spoke. Yeah, fantastic.
Are we ready for groups now?
Right. Nearly. They've got a lot of people to reorganise, and you have to do it every single time we go into a group. They have to do this.
Okay, I'm going to indulge myself a bit further then. Oh no, I can't. Pity. Oh, I know. Just break us into groups as soon as you can. In the meantime, there's another quote that came to me. Epictetus, another one of the ancient Greeks. When giving your child or wife a kiss, repeat to yourself, I am kissing a mortal.
Would you like to unpack that a bit more, Ratnaguna?
Well, it's a nice way of saying one day we'll all be dead. So when you're kissing your wife and child, just remember that one day you'll be parted from them. Maybe that one didn't go down so well. I don't know.
Everyone's trying to work out what their sex life is going to look like from now on.
Someone asked if you could show the book again, Ratnaguna.
Say that again, Annette.
Someone asked if you could show the book again.
I did. Well, I'll do it yes again, third time. There we are.
Pretty much.
Great.
Ready?
Hello.
Hello.
Could some lovely person put me into Danabia's group?
Who are you?
Kathy McVitie.
Okay.
She's expecting me.
Good. Don't have eyes.
Yeah, not everyone's been invited yet.
Yeah, we're still
doing
working
the
through the
last few.
system, so not everyone's been invited yet. Just be patient. We're going to get there.
Dharma Mai, have you got your invitation? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. I couldn't hear you.
Hiya.
Hello.
Hiya. Oh, hi, Catherine.
Oh.
I got cut out of my room.
Oh no! I think we're going to a break for 15 minutes now.
Okay. Could you put me
Hey,
back
Tash.
in the room? Would that
Hi.
be possible?
Hi, Lucy.
I'll be right. Thanks. Thanks.
Lucy, how's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, my first retreat. So
Oh. We'll be together face to face eventually.
so to see you've got your blanket still there.
Oh yeah, never goes.
All right, I'm gonna go on this break, so I'll see you.
Yeah, have a good
Yeah.
one. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
muted.
And you can maybe pin me and Ratnaguna.
Say something, Sadhanandi.
Hello, Ratnaguna. We're just trying to get you pinned up on this screen. You and I are the same sort of, we're not just these small little boxes, we're a bit bigger than that. That's it for me. Yes, good.
Now I can hear you.
That's great. That's great. What have you done with your last 45 minutes?
I started doing something, then I thought, no, you've got to stop. You've got to get out in the air. So I went for a walk.
Nice. That's nice, yeah.
Yeah. Even though I'm only doing 2 half sessions of this retreat every day, I find there's so little time in the day to look after myself. I don't know how you're getting on.
Some people are higher maintenance than others. Oh, dear. What was I going to say to you? Yes, God, when I was talking with Virginie in the group, in the Netherlands at the moment, it's 20 degrees.
What? Up or down?
Up.
20 degrees up.
Yes, in Paris, and also since this morning, it's very warm. It seems like springtime.
Oh, fantastic. Paris and the Netherlands.
Germany as well.
Germany as well.
And Belgium.
Oh, this is what we knew as soon as we left the European Union. We thought the weather's going to be terrible from now on.
It's warm in London.
Thank you, Polly.
Paul tells us it's 14 degrees in Canterbury.
Oh. Hey, Sangadarshini, while we've got you here, we're going to talk a little bit about, did you get my email that I sent you this afternoon? No.
I just got it a second before I logged on.
Okay, what do you think? Are you able to participate in this slightly?
Probably.
Yeah.
Right, just add to the chaos.
Yes.
Are we ready to begin, do you think? 67 participants, are we all here?
Yeah, we're all here.
Okay. So welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good... it's really hard to talk with headphones on. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a good time just now. So Sadhanandi and I are going to have another conversation. And some of the feedback yesterday was it was really good to see you two in action, but it was a bit chaotic. So we're going to try and make it a little less chaotic if we can. And I did say yesterday that Shantikara would join us, but I thought that might add to the chaos. Not that he's chaotic, but 3 of us might. We don't want to push off patients too far. You know, we're only going to experiment so far on this retreat. So today we're going to talk about another topic, what Sangha actually called the 3rd order of consciousness. So the first order of consciousness is group consciousness, when you're fully immersed in the group. Second order of consciousness is when you emerge from the group and you realize you're a separate human being and you're an individual. And the 3rd order of consciousness is what we're going to talk about. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a sutta. Many of you will know the sutta. It's well known in the movement for very good reasons. It's the Chulagosinga Sutta. It's where the 3 so-called Aniruddhas, only one of them is actually called Aniruddha. The other is Kimbala and Nandiya. They're living together in harmony. So you probably know that sutta, but you can never look at it enough. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to set the scene because something happens. A couple of things happen just before the Buddha goes to see these 3 Aniruddhas. And what happens is he's been called to Kasambia, because the monks in Kasambia have all fallen out with each other. And as the text says, they are arguing and brawling, and stabbing each other with verbal daggers. And so somebody asks if the Buddha will go and help sort it out. So he does. He goes to Kusambia and he talks to the monks. One of the lovely things about it is he gets them all together and he says, is it true what I've heard, that you're all brawling and arguing and brawling and stabbing each other with verbal daggers? And they say, yes, Lord. They don't say, well, not me, them over there, or, well, it's not as simple as that, you see. They just say, yes, we are. So the Buddha tells them off, and then he gives a lovely teaching. Many of you will know this teaching about the 6 wonderful, memorable qualities that bring people together in concord and harmony and love. Very important teaching. I won't go through that now, but at the end of that sutta, what happens is this. That is what the Blessed One said. The bhikkhus were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. And so from that, you get the distinct impression that the Buddha's words had an effect on them and they stopped brawling and fighting and it had a happy ending. But then there's another sutta later on in the same book, the Majjhima Nikaya, called the Upakilesha Sutta, and it begins with the Kusambia Sutta, a sort of truncated version of it. And at the end of that, the Blessed One said, enough, bhikkhus, let there be no more quarrelling, brawling, wrangling, or dispute. But the bhikkhus said, wait, Venerable Sir, we are the ones who will be responsible for this quarrelling, brawling, wrangling, and dispute. You can go off and enjoy yourself in blessed ease. So that's how it actually ended. The Buddha didn't actually manage to resolve the issues, and they just kept saying, just go, we can sort it out. So that sounds very familiar, doesn't it? So what the Buddha does then is he goes. He knows he can't help, so off he goes, and he goes into the forest. And the commentary tells us that what happens next is that he comes across an elephant, a lone elephant, and they kind of commune with each other. And they kind of commiserate with each other's position. The Buddha's the head of a Sangha and they won't do what he's asking them to do and they tell him to go away. And the same has happened with this bull elephant, who's the leader of a herd of elephants. And I kind of thinking this would be a really great comedy sketch, wouldn't it? The Buddha and the elephant meeting in the forest. And so what are you doing here? Well, my herd, they're doing this, and the Buddha would say to the elephant, so what did you do? Well, I spoke to them, they wouldn't listen. So what did you do then? And then the elephant says, well, I packed my trunk and I said goodbye to the circus. Some of you will get that joke and others won't. But anyway, that's my little comedy sketch. But then it's a song, Ujimani, a very famous song. Nelly the elephant packed her trunk and said goodbye to the circus. But so then they commune together and commiserate with each other for their very similar positions. And then the Buddha leaves the forest and he goes to where these 3 guys, Aniruddha, Kimbya, and Kimbala and Nandya are living. And he wants to go and see them. So he does. He goes to where they're staying in the forest, just the 3 of them living there. And this is what we're going to talk about this afternoon. So I'm going to hand over to Sadhananda, who's going to begin to tell the story. And I might stop her at some point and we'll talk about something, or I might let her go on to the end. So over to you, Sadhananda.
Thank you very much. I used the break to write down a few notes, so I'm just going to look at them. Yeah, so the Buddha approaches the eastern bamboo park, which is where these guys are living. And for a brief moment, the park keeper doesn't let him in. He says, no, don't come in, because there's these 3 guys living together. And he obviously doesn't want them to be disturbed. He's got a sort of protecting kind of quality to him. But then Aniruddha realizes what's going on, that the park keeper is not letting the Buddha in. He says, no, let the Buddha in, because he's our teacher and it'd be great to see him. So the Buddha comes in and they do the classic description of these 3 guys, Aniruddha, Nandya, and Kimbya. And they prepare the seat for the Buddha. They get the water ready. Maybe they just do all the welcoming thing that you read in all the suttas. And then the Buddha says, you know, are you well? Are you happy? Are you practicing well? Tell us about who you are. Tell us what's going on. And of course, they're living in total harmony. This is what they start describing. They're living in total harmony in great comparison to the guys that the Buddha has left. And they use this sort of refrain that's probably become very famous. They say, that we're living in harmony, engaging in bodily acts of loving kindness, openly and privately. Mental acts of loving kindness, openly and privately. Verbal acts of loving kindness, openly and privately. So in other words, they start describing how they're living with all this kindness and viewing each other with kindly eyes and mixing like, what is it? It's like milk and water, I think.
Milk and water. Yeah,
mixing like milk and water, which we all know is very easy to mix together. So just like milk and water, we're living together in concord and in harmony, viewing each other with kindly eyes. So this is the frame that they say. And then the Buddha says, and how are you doing that? And then
just before you do the next bit, Sadhanandi, that's of course in what he says to the Kosambhiyas is the first three of the 6 memorable qualities that bring people together in concord and harmony are exactly those 3 things. So what the Buddha teaches to the Kosambhiyans, and they don't want anything to do with it, the Buddha doesn't have to teach to these 3 guys because they're actually doing it. Yeah. So back to you, back to the story.
Thank you. And so really, in a way, all the sutras doing it, the sutras just describing. In a way, it's not teaching us anything. It's just describing to us what these guys are living like, which is a bit like that disciple of Uttara that Sadaloka read out. You know, when we had that life of the Buddha, and you have that guy following the Buddha around, and he just describes what the Buddha's actions are like. Like he talks about. I know this description very well. Things like when he gives a talk, it only reaches to the edge of the audience and no further. Or when he's eating the food from the bowl, he's able to eat the food and then wash the bowl all in one kind of movement. It's all very smooth, the way that the Buddha's actions are being described. He's also described as sitting down at the base of a tree, and things like he doesn't pick his feet. No doubt lots of people sit down in a meditation position and first of all they pick their feet and pick whatever they pick, but the Buddha doesn't do that. So we're getting this beautiful description of the Buddha. So here now we've got the Buddha's description of this community. So the Buddha says, how are you managing to live like this? It's probably is amazed because he's just left a bunch of people who's totally not able to do that. And he hasn't even given these guys this teaching, okay? He hasn't been there teaching them this story, the 3 acts that they need to do. And they say to him, they think to themselves, why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what these venerable ones wish to do? And then they say, we are different in body, but one in mind. It's just a paraphrase of it. So why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what these venerable ones wish to do? Which is quite a high level of individuality in terms of, in a way, putting aside one's will and just thinking all the time, what does the situation need? What's best for the situation, yeah? You're not wanting to interrupt me yet, Ratnaguna.
Oh, you're doing so well, I don't need to say anything.
Okay.
Well, maybe you've got me in. I said the 3rd order of consciousness, didn't I? And I said we're going to look at that. And in a way, this is the beginning of a description of the 3rd order of consciousness, isn't it? Yeah. Which is where you've emerged from the group. You're now an individual, but now you're associating freely with other individuals in a non-egoic way.
And what struck me when I was thinking about it was not just, well, it is non-egoic, oh God, I can't think of my words. Egoic, it is all that. But I was thinking it's not, what is it, scheming? The calculating mind isn't functioning anymore. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking how often I'm calculating all the time. If I do this, that will work better for that. It's not a bad way, but they've really dropped the calculating mind because they just know if they just do this, everything will be taken care of. Yeah. So they're in service totally to the situation. That's what I relate to it in terms of service, which is my way of relating to it all. Yeah. So then they carry on describing what they do, and they describe, this is all going to be very familiar, a very familiar paragraph. One of them says, whoever returns first from alms round prepares the place for eating, drinking and washing, and places the rubbish bin in the right place. And then whoever returns last eats any food that's left, if they want it, and otherwise they throw it away carefully, for instance, not in any way that it's going to hurt any other animal. And then they put away all the dining room and washing stuff, yeah. And then they say, if anyone notices that something needs to be done, they take care of it. And if they need help, they ask for it and the others help, yeah. They don't seem to think, actually, I've done the washing up for the last 3 days. I'm buggered if I'm going to do it this time, yeah. Or they don't seem to be suggesting that when they come back from the alms round, somebody waits a bit longer for all the things to be laid out ready for themselves. They seem to actually, not calculate what would allow them, when they're not trying to maneuver or manipulate the situation, just to get away with doing certain actions or not participating or something like that. Mm. Mm. And they're obviously doing a lot of this in silence because there's no need to speak. They've got into the routine, they're all serving the situation, but then it says every 5 days they sit down through the night and talk about the Dharma. So who knows what they're doing there. But I suppose they're re-establishing their connection with their vision. They're talking about what they're working with. They're functioning as a chapter in the highest sort of possible way. And when you're at that level, who knows what you're talking about when you're talking about the Dharma? It must be very beautiful, yeah, and maybe very simple. I think sometimes when we're reaching quite when we're in a very positive state of mind, there's much less to say. Yeah.
The Pali term for that, talking about the Dharma, is Dhammakata, isn't it? And I have heard it said that there's no about in that phrase. There's just talking Dharma, which is quite interesting, isn't it? That talking Dharma doesn't mean to say you're necessarily talking about the Four Noble Truths or whatever, but whatever you say is Dhamma.
Which in a way comes back to some of the earlier conversations we've had about what is real communication. What is it to bring yourself into relationship with other people from your own level of individuality? And then maybe it doesn't matter what you talk about, because all of it's going to be aligned with a much deeper level of reality. It's like that's working through you. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to go back to what you were saying about the calculating mind. I don't know if you know, this comes from Shinran, the great Pure Land teacher from Japan. And it's Hakurai in Japan, in Japanese, Hakurai. And it's it's almost the biggest obstacle to gaining enlightenment is you calculating. In other words, scheming, trying to figure things out, how you can do this and that. So enlightenment for Shinran is dropping the calculating mind. So you no longer calculate for your own advantage. That's completely gone.
Thank you. I hadn't realised. I think I did get it from that. I think me and the women at Taraloka studied the Pure Land with possibly a buyer. Is that possible? I think he lived in Japan, so I'm wondering whether he...
Yes, he'd spent some time in Japan, hadn't he? Yeah.
I think we studied the Tanisho with him, and I hadn't realised that the levels of faith and the calculating mind, it belonged to all of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's very interesting giving that up, that calculating mind. I don't know, this is, for some reason, this is standing out for me, which is when I first came along to the Buddhist Centre in Glasgow, because of my pleasure and enjoyment out of communication, I always wanted to be a teacher. I always wanted to be a great teacher, a Dharma teacher. And I ended up working in Right Livelihood, and most of the time I didn't go to the Buddhist Centre because I was working in Right Livelihood teams. And then I got asked to move to Taraloka and help with the bookings desk. And I remember making the decision to move to Taraloka, and I thought, okay, from now on, I'm just a booking secretary. And it felt incredibly sort of liberating in that moment. I just thought, I can just stop worrying about what I want to be and where I'm going. And all I can do now, I'm just the booking secretary, and that's backstage, doing the administration, sending out adverts and letters and things like that. And that's who I am now. Yeah, it was a beautiful, sort of freed moment. Yeah, yeah.
That is that kind of. You didn't need to tell me that, Sadhanandi, because I know that of you. You're just like a faithful servant. Whatever needs to be done, you'll just do it. It's just amazing the way you. I mean, you're the chair of Adhisthana, and you put the bins out and you do the washing up, and it's just wonderful to see. Completely non-egoic. I had a similar kind of thing myself, but 20 years ago, after 20 years of being involved as an order member, I gave up in distress because I thought I'm getting nowhere, it's just not working. So I left and I went to live in North Wales. And I did come back after a couple of years with a very different idea of what I'm trying to do in the spiritual life. And the reason I left was because I didn't think I was making any progress. I was no good at this business. Let's go and do something else. When I came back, I still don't think I'm very good at this business. But I kind of think, well, it doesn't matter much. You're just a servant. All I'm doing is serving the order and the movement as best I can. I do the best things I'm quite good at. And it doesn't really matter about me and where I am in my spiritual development, as long as I'm helping other people to do that. So it takes a great weight off your shoulders in a way to just think in those terms. I'm just serving these people. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, thank you. I used to see you sometimes in Llangollen during that stay and during that period. I remember it.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It is a very. I mean, when we're in that state of mind. Well, I remember when I first said I'd be chair at Taraloka when I first made that decision, and I remember walking up the stairs and being in a room and thinking I was in my room with Dayamala. We were sharing a bedroom together, and I suddenly thought, there's a wind inside me. There's a wind blowing, and it's like a kind of emptiness. Suddenly, the calculating mind isn't there anymore, and there's a sort of spaciousness. And I remember going downstairs, and Ratnashuri was still alive, and I said to her, Ratnashuri, there's a wind inside me. And she got that beautiful poem. Who's it by? Not I, but the wind that blows through me. Is it D.H. Lawrence? I think it might be. My tech team's just looking it up for me now. Yeah, but there is a sort of emptiness in that moment of something. Something is absent. Yeah, which is very beautiful. D.H. Lawrence, thank you.
D.H. Lawrence, yeah. I'm not sure what to do now, Sadhanandi, whether to go on with the story or whether.
Well, actually, the story that I had that I was sort of taking notes from, it just goes now into to the Buddha, describing all his meditation experience and what he did before.
Okay.
Which might be a different version from what you've got, because I can never find that longer version.
Well, what's interesting about this, I find, is that I realized a couple of years ago that Buddhist different texts do different things. And very often, when we look at a Buddhist text, we're looking for teachings. Like in the Kosambhya Sutta, you get these 6 memorable qualities and you learn about them and then you try to put them into practice. But there are other texts which don't really give you teachings. There are a number of texts in both these texts are from the Majjhima Nikaya, and there are a number of texts in the Majjhima Nikaya which is about Sangha. And you get the impression reading through the text that one of their main concerns in those days was Sangha, and what to do when people fall out and what to do when people misbehave and so on. There's one text, I think it's Sutta number 14, where one of the Buddha's chief disciples, Mahamoggallana, talks about 16 ways in which people don't receive feedback. 16 ways. And when you read them, you recognize them all. You know, one of them is you might deflect the feedback, start talking about something else. You might attack the person who's giving you feedback and say, well, what about you? Or you might get angry. And you know, that's a really good way of deflecting feedback, because if you get angry every time someone tries to give you feedback, people stop giving you feedback. So there are a number of texts that deal with that. And so the Kasambhya Sutta is what I call an informative text. It informs you about something that you can use. But then when you come to the Chulakasinga Sutta, this one, what's interesting is the Buddha doesn't teach. It's one of the very few texts where the Buddha doesn't actually teach. He draws it out of his disciples. And what's been drawn out is the teachings he gave in the Kasambhya Sutta. So I think of this sutta as a performative text rather than informative one. If you've already read the Kasambhya Sutta, this isn't going to tell you anything new, but it's going to exemplify that. And I think it's one of those texts that what you should really do is read it out loud a number of times as like a sadhana, and you go through it and you're changed as a result. Yeah. But let's get a bit more personal now. We've looked at what the third order of consciousness is. It's when you really are an individual, but you're able to really be with other people and cooperate. And one of the qualities of the individual, which we haven't spoken about yet, is cooperation, that you can only really truly cooperate when you're an individual. But have you had any experience of this kind of third order of consciousness, like the Anuruddha's Sadhanandi?
Thank you. I think sometimes running a retreat is a bit like that. When there's a total sort of ease and smoothness between everyone, and they're all serving, all of us are trying to create a very good retreat. It doesn't mean that there isn't chaos sometimes, but there is something about you're putting your own complexity to one side and just trying to you're bringing in your own richness and what you can contribute. But you're not worrying about yourself standing out. You're not worrying about how people are viewing you. You're putting down all the worldly winds and you're just serving that one single project. And I can think of this lovely moment when I was actually supporting Ratnavandana, he's a very strong retreat leader. And right at the last puja, I was sitting next to her, and we'd run this beautiful retreat together, and I'd been doing various mantras for her and stuff like that. And she suddenly realized halfway through the last puja that she hadn't asked somebody to lead a mantra. And she just said to me, and she just turned to me and she said, "Sanandi, will you lead the White Tara mantra?" And I said, "Okay. Does it begin with Om?" Like that, because I couldn't remember how it started. There's this lovely moment, and then she just laughed and laughed. But I thought, oh, there was such a lot of ease between us. It did make me think, and while she waited for me to sort of get into the mantra and how to do it, and then right at the end of all of that, I realised this is a moment. There is a moment here where I could lead a mantra, which was a really obvious place, right at the end of the puja, right at the end of everything. I knew this is a moment where I could lead a certain mantra. And I thought, I wonder if Ratnavandana might think that too. If she raises her finger, I will do it. And then she raised her finger, and then I did it. And I thought, yeah, that's it. That was us working in total harmony with each other in that moment, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But that was a very intimate space. I mean, another completely different example would be, for instance, setting up the funeral for Bante. That was a really massive event, a very different space. That was a huge team. There was probably maybe, I expect there was about 70 people eventually on site running the whole thing in different ways. And there would have been like the resident community. and there was the community of guys that had been serving Bhante for the last few years, all in quite different levels of grief themselves. Then there was volunteers that had a connection with Adhisthana that were called in at the last moment. And then there was the development team who appeared just saying, tell us what to do. And they all arrived from various places, Manchester or Devon or whatever. They took over hosting all the people that then sat with Bhante's body throughout the day. There was also a big a month's residential course running with Purina in it and people from all over the world. And suddenly they had dropped the course that we'd been running for the last 3.5 weeks, and they took over different aspects. In particular, they took over sometimes running the vigil that went through the night. So we were not only trying to set up an event for 1,400 people to arrive, we also were having nights where somebody was in the shrine room leading a meditation and chanting every hour throughout the whole night, and quite a lot of those people took that on. And people were working until 2 in the morning. I remember Diamala in particular was working until 2 in the morning, and she knew that during the day she had to do a very extroverted team building, organizational sort of structure, and then in the evening she was doing all the detailed work that was needed for the next day. And nobody calculated who was working harder than anybody else. Everybody just contributed what they had to contribute, what was needed from them. You just had to do what was needed. And Sangadarshini, I know, was part of that. I think maybe you could say something, Sangadarshini, about your experience of that time.
I came in from the outside because I had just left Adhisthana, and yeah, it's quite a lot how you described it, how we were sort of like all working on different levels in different places. And I remembered, because we had a few big events beforehand at Adhisthana, and on my first big event, I had just arrived at Adhisthana maybe for a month. Sangadeva said to me, let's dance together. And that always sort of like rang really true, you know, sort of like the sense, instead of us all working together, it was like a dance of us, each one of us bringing in the different qualities. Just dancing together through that event. And it's how the other event felt as well at Bhante's funeral. Totally different atmosphere. But each one of us just giving ourselves wholeheartedly to the event.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it was a very profound time, and it was also because it had the death aspect, a bit like your parting phrase earlier on, Ratnaguna, where you said, when you kiss somebody goodnight or whatever, you remember that we're all impermanent, or this person's going to die, or I'm going to die. That was very much in the mix. And there was a 2-day event of a men's area order weekend, and we watched teams of those guys digging the hole for Bhante's body, which is very strong to watch disciples, let's say, and just going out there and digging this hole in the ground. Of course, it has to be at least 6 feet down, so it's quite a lot of digging. Let's put it that way, and it's heavy clay at Adhisthana. Yeah. So all that was going on, and we were all working at very different levels. Like somebody was, I don't know, putting the chairs out, and somebody else, like myself, I was trying to work out the opening speech that was going to welcome everybody to Adhisthana on the day. And at the same time, there was this whole quality of impermanence, which was, I think it lifted the atmosphere. So it was actually a very joyful, beautiful time, even though, the shadow of death hung over it. Yeah. Maybe you always need a bit of a shadow of death around. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else I want to say about that particular time, but a very different space from that moment between myself and Ratnavandana, where I was just looking for her to raise a finger, and I knew then exactly what I would need to do. Yes. But again, probably all of us were working in little different teams where there was that kind of ease, and it is the cooperation, and you're just in service to the whole thing, just in service. Yeah. Thank you, Sangadarshini.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I've got just a couple of small instances of that. One that I didn't actually experience, but that I observed. I think it was Poland. I led a retreat in Poland, and in Poland they have a centre in the city, but they don't have their own retreat centre, so they're always going to places. And you know what it's like when you hire a place, then you have to make it into a Buddhist temple. So there's a lot of work involved. And in some ways, that's a really good thing when you don't have your own place, that you have to all come together and bring all the mats and all the food and everything. But what I noticed, they didn't have a washing up rota. And there were about, 20, 25 people. And I just mentioned this, and the order members said, yeah, we don't need them. People just wash up, which I thought was really wonderful. I don't think I'd ever been on a retreat where it was just happened without anybody having to tell anyone to do it. The other one I just thought of today, actually, was when I worked for Breathworks. So I worked with Breathworks. I was the director of Breathworks, and we used to run courses for people with pain and illness in Manchester. And we used to run the course in the big shrine room there. And what you'd have to do, because you get maybe 12 people, all in various levels of disrepair, you could say, illness and pain and so on. And so what we'd have to do is we'd have to have one part of the shrine room chairs in a circle so we could talk to everyone and, you know, report back on how we're getting on and so on. But most of the shrine was taken up with mats on the floor so that people could lie down and do the body scan, lie down and do mindful movement. And for a lot of people, it was a real relief to be able to lie down because of their back. You know, their back was hurting, and there's no social place you can be and lie down. You have to sit up if you're in a social situation. So a lot of people lie down through the whole class. And so the team of us, there'd be maybe 3 or 4 of us, 2 teachers, 2 helpers. We would get there a good half hour before the class started, and we'd have to get the room ready, which was a lot of work because you get the mats. Each person had 4 mats, 2, 3 cushions and a blanket. And then we got to know people so that sometimes, you know, we knew that someone needed 6 mats, not 4, and they needed an extra couple of cushions for under their knees, and we got to know that. So we spent a long time just getting the place ready, the flip chart, all the chairs, etc., etc. And all of us, the teachers and the supporters, after a couple of weeks, we knew exactly what we had to do. So we just did it in silence. There was nobody checking, Sona, could you go and do that? No, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to ask, he just did it. And we did that every week. And then the people came in and we sat down and we ran the class. But there was, thinking about it today, I realized there was something purifying about that activity. It purified us all. From Vanant to me, this is a message for both you and Sadhanandi. There's no message though. It purified us all, and I don't know, it put us in a really, really good space to help these people. And it was like we were servants. So a tea break, we all went downstairs, and the teachers and the team, we all made tea and gave it to people, and then we washed up afterwards and we go back upstairs. And when people actually did have to lie down, we'd help some of them and get extra cushions and blankets for some. And yeah, it was a very purifying activity where I didn't matter. You see what I mean? This isn't about me. This is about these people. And yeah, it was a really great experience. So 5:05, what should we do now? Is that the end, or is there more to say about the story, Sadhanandi?
I don't think I have anything more to say about the story, but maybe just that, you know, you were talking about the Buddha describing the situation. We learn from that. It's like we learn what cooperation looks like from the story. And I think this experience that we're trying to describe is very hard to actually, you can't learn from words, you have to learn from experience of it. In a way, you have to participate in a kind of team of people working like that and seeing people, how they're functioning at that level, and then enjoying that and feeling your own experience of being drawn out by it. Yeah. And I don't think it's that difficult for people to identify. It's like you don't need to know the Dharma to sort of pick that up, if you like. It's sort of, as human beings, we just know somebody's in service. Somebody's trying to do something more than just serve their own aims. Yeah.
Yes.
And I've got this memory. I think this is connected. I think it's connected. But when I was a year or so after I was ordained by a woman called Sangha Devi, who was working very, very hard at that time. As she was one of the main women preceptors, and she was ordaining a huge amount of women all over the world, mostly in Britain and in the States and in Australia and New Zealand. So she was traveling the world almost every year. And for instance, on my ordination retreat, where there was 20 of us ordained, she privately ordained 13, and she publicly ordained the whole retreat. Yeah, that was the level she was functioning at. It was a huge job she was doing. And she desperately needed a secretary. She needed somebody to take care of some of the practical things and work alongside her. And I said to her, after I'd been ordained a couple of years, I said to her, I could maybe become your secretary, if that would be helpful. And she said this fantastic thing to me. It's quite moving. She said, you could, Sanandi, and I think you could actually do the job. And I think we could work together. But I think you would be drawn on more fully by staying at Taraloka. You will be able to give more if you stay at Taraloka. And it was such a selfless moment of, she gave up the idea of having possibly quite a capable, effective sort of personal assistance, because she could see what was best for me, and maybe what was best for Taraloka was for me to do something else, which was work in Taraloka. And she wasn't looking at what would be best for me herself. She was looking at where can this person most give. I thought it was such an interesting way of choosing or making decisions. Where can I most give? And making that the next place that you go to, something like that. And that's what she was saying to me anyway. I'll just put that in now.
Brilliant, thank you. So I've had an idea.
Have you?
Yes. First I thought, well, we got 20 minutes. Let's go back into groups. But then I thought, actually, let's do something a bit meditative together. I've said I think this text is a performative text rather than an informative one. And I thought I would just read it to you slowly. If you can get yourselves into a meditative posture and a kind of meditative state, we'll do a meditation on the third order of consciousness. I'll just simply by reading the text until we get to 5:30, and then we'll end. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Good
lovely.
idea.
Thank you. Yeah, good idea. Right.
Then, having uttered these stanzas while standing, the Blessed One went to the village. On that occasion, the Venerable Bhargu was living at the village. When the Venerable Bhargu saw the Blessed One coming in the distance, he prepared a seat and set out water for washing the feet. The Venerable Bhargu paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down at one side. And the Blessed One said to him, I hope you are keeping well, Bhikkhu. I hope you are comfortable. I hope you are not having any trouble getting alms food. I am keeping well, Blessed One. I am comfortable. and I'm not having any trouble getting alms food. Then the Blessed One instructed, urged, roused, and encouraged the Venerable Bhagu with talk on the Dharma, after which he rose from his seat and went to the Eastern Bamboo Park. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Aniruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kimbala were living at the Eastern Bamboo Park. The park keeper saw the Blessed One coming in the distance and told him, "Do not enter this park, recluse. There are 3 clansmen here seeking their own good. Do not disturb them." The Venerable Aniruddha heard the park keeper speaking to the Blessed One and told him, "Friend, park keeper, do not keep the Blessed One out. It is our teacher, the Blessed One, who has come." Then the Venerable Aniruddha went to the Venerable Nandiya and the Venerable Kimbala and said, "Come out, Venerable Ones, sirs, come out, come out. Our teacher, the Blessed One, has come." Then all 3 went to meet the Blessed One. One took his bowl and outer robe, one prepared a seat, and one set out water for washing the feet. The Blessed One sat down on the seat made ready and washed his feet. Then those 3 Venerable Ones paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down at one side. And the Blessed One said to them, "I hope you are keeping well, Aniruddha. I hope you are comfortable. I hope you are not having any trouble getting alms food." "We are keeping well, Blessed One. We are comfortable, and we are not having any trouble getting alms food." "I hope, Aniruddha, that you are all living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes." "Surely, Venerable Sir, we are living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes." "But Aniruddha, how do you live like this?" "Venerable Sir, as to that, I think thus. It is a gain for me, it is a great gain for me, that I am living with such companions in the holy life. I maintain bodily acts of loving kindness towards these Venerable Ones, both openly and privately. I maintain verbal acts of loving kindness towards them, both openly and privately. I maintain mental acts of loving kindness towards them, both openly and privately. I consider, why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what these Venerable Ones wish to do? Then I set aside what I wish to do and do what these Venerable Ones wish to do. We are different in body, Venerable Sir, but one in mind." The Venerable Nandiya and the Venerable Kimbala each spoke likewise, adding, "That is how, Venerable Sir, we are living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes." "Good, good, Aniruddha. I hope that you all abide diligent, ardent, and resolute." "Surely, Venerable Sir, we abide diligent, ardent, and resolute." "But, Aniruddha, how do you abide like this?" "Venerable Sir, as to that, whichever of us returns first from the village with alms food prepares the seats, sets out the water for drinking and for washing, and puts the refuse bucket in its place. Whichever of us returns last eats any food left over, if he wishes. Otherwise, he throws it away where there is no greenery, or drops it into water where there is no life. He puts away the seats and the water for drinking and for washing. He puts away the refuse bucket after washing it, and he sweeps out the refectory. Whoever notices that the pots of water for drinking, washing, or the latrine are low or empty takes care of them. If they are too heavy for him, he calls someone else by a signal of the hand, and they move it by joining hands. But because of this, we do not break out into speech. But every 5 days, we sit together all night discussing the Dharma. That is how we abide, diligent, ardent, and resolute. Good, good, Aniruddha. But while you abide thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute, have you attained any superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding? Venerable Sir, as we abide here, diligent, ardent, and resolute, we perceive both light and a vision of forms. Soon afterwards, the light and the vision of forms disappear, but we have not discovered the cause for that. You should discover the cause for that, Aniruddha. Before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, I too perceived both light and a vision of forms. Soon afterwards, the light and the vision of forms disappeared. I thought, what is the cause and condition? Why the light and the vision of forms had disappeared? Then I considered thus, doubt arose in me, and because of the doubt, my concentration fell away. When my concentration fell away, the light and the vision of forms disappeared. I shall so act that doubt will not arise in me again. Just to break into your meditations, I'm reading from the Upakilesha Sutta, which is not the same as the one we've been talking about. So I'm just going to find that now. So to continue, they go on to talk about their experiences, the 3 Aniruddhas in meditation, and then the Buddha leaves. After they had accompanied the Blessed One a little way and turned back again, the Venerable Nandiya and the Venerable Kimbala asked the Venerable Aniruddha, have we ever reported to the Venerable Ananda that we have obtained those abidings and attainments that the Venerable Aniruddha, in the Blessed One's presence, ascribed to us up to the destruction of the taints? The Venerable Ones have never reported to me that they have obtained those abidings and attainments. Yet, by encompassing the Venerable One's minds with my own, I know that they have attained those abidings and attainments. And deities have also reported to me. These Venerable Ones have obtained those abidings and attainments. Then I declared it when directly questioned by the Blessed One. Then the spirit Diga Parajana went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to the Blessed One, he stood at one side and said, It is a gain for the Vajrayans, Venerable Sir, a great gain for the Vajrayan people that the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened, dwells among them, and these three clansmen, the Venerable Aniruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kimbala. On hearing the exclamation of the spirit Diga Parajana, the earth gods exclaimed, "It is a great gain for the Vajrayans, a great gain for the Vajrayan people that the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened, dwells among them, and that these three clansmen, the Venerable Aniruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kimbala." On hearing the exclamation of the earth gods, the gods of the heaven of the four great kings, the gods of the heaven of the 33, the Yama gods, the gods of the Tushita heaven, the gods who delight in creating, the gods who wield power over others' creations, the gods of Brahma's retinue exclaimed, "It is a gain for the Vajrayans, a great gain for the Vajrayan people, that the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened, dwells among them, and these three clansmen, the Venerable Aniruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kimbala." Thus, at that instant, at that moment, those venerable ones were known as far as the Brahma world. The Blessed One said, "So it is, Diga, so it is. And if the clan from which these clansmen went forth from home life into homelessness should remember them with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of that clan for a long time. And if the retinue of the clan from which those three clansmen went forth, the village from where they went forth, the town from which they went forth, the city from which they went forth, the country from which those clansmen went forth from home life into homelessness should remember them with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of that country for a long time. If all the nobles should remember them with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of the nobles for a long time. If all Brahmins, all merchants, all workers should remember them with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of them for a long time. If the world with its gods, its Maras, and its Brahmas, this generation with its recluses and Brahmins, its princes and its people, should remember those three clansmen with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of the world for a long time. See, Diga, how those three clansmen are practicing for the welfare and happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the good, welfare, and happiness of gods and humans. Okay, everybody, come to the end of the afternoon session now. I'll just give you a minute or two to come out of meditation. And Sadhanandi, is there anything else we need to say, or should we just say goodbye to everyone now and see you this evening?
Yeah, we can just say goodbye and see you this evening. And the team, we can meet you. We can meet in a couple of minutes. Okay. Thank you.